Good evening. Welcome to the June 16th, 2025 meeting of Scituate Conservation Commission. My apologies for the delay. Start right off with reading a couple of things that we have to do here. This meeting's being held virtually as an alternate means of public access pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You're hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during the meeting may be recorded by the town of Scituate in accordance with the open meeting law. Also, to remind you that the town of Scituate has a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. The Scituate Conservation Commission is committed to providing an environment of respect during our meetings. We ask that all members to interact in a polite manner, even when there's disagreement. We value the participation of our community and want all participants, including marginalized and minoritized communities, to feel welcome and respected. We ask our committee members and all who participate to commit to these standards and to support and respect our community. Okay, that said, we have an agenda, and it sounds like we have a fair number of continuances, but can we, guess we'll, we have a, can we accept the agenda?
Yes, we can accept the agenda. The continuances mostly came in today, so those are changes to the agenda.
Okay, we'll read them off in a minute. So I'll take a motion to accept.
I make
uh,
a motion, we accept the agenda as written.
Second
As,
from Jen.
um, okay, and who do we have here tonight? Sorry, I don't even, I got Penny, Jen,
Brendan
Brendan,
That's
says
it.
yes.
and who else?
You.
And me. Well, cool. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, all right. So motion and we accepted it. Um, so what do we have for that are going to be continued? Maybe we can just announce those.
Sure. 85 Chief Justice Cushing Highway.
Okay. Um, we want to just move that now. So we want to continue 85 Chief Justice Cushing Highway to when?
July 21st.
Okay, do we have a motion for that?
I make a motion, we continue 87 Chief Justice Cushing to July 21st.
Okay, and a second?
Second
Oh,
from Jen.
All in favor, Brendan?
yes.
Frank, yes. Okay. What's the next one to be continued, Jen?
107 Edward Foster requested to be continued to July 21st.
I make
Right.
a motion, we continue 107 Edward Foster to July 21st.
Okay, all in favor, Brendan?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Okay, and the next one?
185 Edward Foster wanted to be continued to the next meeting. The next meeting is full, so July 21st is the next available agenda.
Okay.
Okay,
I make a motion, we continue 187 Edward Foster to July 21st.
and
Second
that,
from Jen.
all in favor, Brendan?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. And then looks like
One more.
30 Marshfield.
Correct, to August 4th.
I make a
Okay,
motion, we continue Marshfield Ave to August 4th, down the road.
Second from Jen.
all in favor, Brendan?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Killing it. Okay, thank you.
And then 803 Countryway, we are not opening tonight. We're re-advertising it for a different date.
So we don't have to do anything, right?
Correct, correct.
Okay. All right. So anybody looking to participate in any of those hearings, just give you a heads up so you don't have to hang around. Thank you. Okay. 87 Gilson. So I'm opening that one, right?
Yes.
Okay. On June 16th, 6 p.m., the Situate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40, Massachusetts General Laws, and Section 30700, Town of Situate Code of Bylaws, for a notice of intent filed by Michael Smith and Elizabeth Watson for construction of addition at 87 Gilson Road, Situate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meetings available on their website. And we have somebody from Morse Engineering.
Yes, I see Jeff Hassett.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Jeff Hassel here, Morse Engineering.
Good evening.
Evening. Also on the call is Sean Papich, who is the landscape architect for the project.
And I'm just going to remind everybody tonight that hopefully with these continuances we'll do well, but we only have a quorum until
7:45.
7:30. So just would appreciate trying to move these along as best we can. Thank you.
All right. I'll keep it brief. So this is an NOI filing for 87 Gilson Road for an addition. And the property is about 13,000 square feet. It has frontage at the bottom of the page on Gilson Road. It's abutted on either side by other single-family homes. And then the back of the property abuts the coastal bank. And this property is entirely developed. There is a single-family home in the middle of the property. There's also a detached garage closer to the road, set back only about 10 feet off of the road, with a driveway, and then they have hardscape walkways connecting the driveway and the garage to the house, and other hardscaping and landscaping around. So the property is entirely developed. The only resource area on the property is the coastal bank, and that's clearly defined at the top where it goes from greater than a 4-to-1 slope to where there's a post and rail fence, and then upgrading into that is lawn and landscaped areas. So the proposed work will be to demolish that detached garage that's in the front left corner of the property. And then that will become a larger driveway area, which will be a pervious driveway. And then constructing a 25 by 40-foot addition on the left side of the house, which will also be a 2-car garage. In addition, they're proposing hardscape and landscape improvements, including a new walkway and a new patio out back, and landscape plantings throughout. The area right at the top of the bank, shown in green, is an area that's currently a mulch bed and lawn area that's going to be replanted with natives. And then at the break between the plantings is currently there's a patio. It's a paver patio with a pergola on top of it. And that's going to be removed, and in that footprint is more of a natural fire pit, more natural, and that's just going to be natural stone instead of pavers, with grass between and the joints.
Yeah.
So this project, it won't have any adverse impact on the bank, which is the only resource area. The house is outside of the 50-foot buffer to the bank. All the areas are developed. And the property actually slopes away from the top of the bank towards the street. So there won't be any runoff from the project area towards the bank. We do have 2 erosion barriers just really to demarcate the limit of work. And it does not trigger a stormwater permit because it's not a significant enough increase in impervious area. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Jen, do you want to start first?
Sure. There was no DEP comments. It did not trigger stormwater. There's a lot of pervious pavers being introduced with the driveway and the patio, and they provided those details. The information asked for the top of bank was provided as well as far as that delineation is concerned. So any of the questions I have had have been answered. I probably have a couple comments as far as conditioning is concerned, just the pervious pavers or those remaining a surface as such going forward or needing to come back to request a change. But otherwise, I didn't have anything else to add.
Okay, thank you. Penny?
Yeah, okay. I just answered my own question. That fire pit is new, getting rid of the pergola and patio. So are those boulders or what around the
No, they're flat stones set flush to the grass.
Okay, okay. And you have all this mitigation, is that what it is? All the green? going in?
I mean, they're plantings.
Yeah, yeah. My only concern is you're right at the edge of the 50. And we all know when construction gets going, you're gonna end up into the 50. Where are you going to put the mulch sock? To
Yeah, that's a
protect
good question, and that
50?
was actually one of Jen's comments too. We're showing two erosion barriers, and one is that first full dark line closer to the house. That'll keep all the work associated with the house right up, adjacent to the house.
Okay,
And then when that's constructed and they're doing the landscaping, there'll be a second erosion barrier placed at the top of Coastal Bank. So that way, when the significant work is going on, it won't creep and encroach close to the bank where it could have an issue.
okay, so you won't have equipment out there in the 50.
No.
Okay.
Well,
That
there'll be some, right?
he just said no.
Oh, not beyond the first erosion barrier. So there will be work in the 50-foot buffer immediately adjacent to the house.
Okay, that's what I'm
So-
getting at.
So like
that
a small mini excavator, or a bobcat would be able to go around the house during construction and partially into the 50.
Okay, maybe it's just me, but I am not seeing erosion control in the backyard. Just way out.
Yeah,
Penny,
it's
are
there.
you looking at the June 5th plan?
I thought I was. No. All right, I'll go up here. Oh, okay, I see it now. I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Oh, okay, because that to me is a big concern, that when you do work like that, you're so close to begin with the finished project, and in order to work on it, you got to get out there. But you will fix anything that they mess up, right?
Yes, everything will be restored as grass
Okay, thank you.
or landscaping.
Moving on, Frank.
Brendan?
Okay, sorry about that. Um, yeah, so I guess sorry, I guess I'm a little bit behind. Um,
Want to
so
flip to Jen for a second, or are you good?
yeah, I guess if you could.
Yep, Jen.
Sorry.
I didn't have a chance to read any of the detail in the landscaping if it was provided. Is the um is the size of these circles indicative of it being like a bigger tree that's going in or a bigger planting?
Yeah, exactly. If you see over on the right, there's a leader that says proposed native tree 2 of 2. And then
Okay.
above that, proposed native shrubs, typical of 53.
Oh, okay. Yep.
They'll all
Got it.
be, yeah, and they'll all be in perennials. They'll all be natives. The actual species have not been selected though.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Jeff, did you say Sean was on?
I am on, Frank.
Do you
Sean
want to
Packard.
just
Yeah, I can
let
speak to
him
it.
have a quick,
Sure.
quick because of the
I'll make it.
what we have
Yeah, I'll
tonight.
make it quick, Frank. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Sean Pappas Landscape Architecture of 222 North Street in Hingham, Massachusetts. Jen, what we had on the plan was, Jeff was describing that accurately. It's essentially a native tree. It's understory. So we would probably use something like serviceberry or hawthorn. Size of the circles is a little bit of an indicator of what we would do there. Little low juniper on some of the plant material we might utilize there. Native grasses, switchgrass, featherweed grass, drop seed that we'd use with grasses, as well as the native forbs that we use, which some people call perennials. When we're native, we like to call them forbs. It just makes us sound more impressive, I guess, when we say forbs and not perennials. It makes us sound more serious about our native plantings, right? And So that's really what you see there. There are some Montauk daisies up there, which are non-native. I wasn't sure how the commission feels about that. We could leave some of those Montauks and add to them. I don't know how all of you feel about that. You can let me know. Or we can take those out and put in other ones that we think of as pure natives. But if you guys have some opinions on that, of course, please let me know. But that's really is what we're doing on the back side there above the coastal bank. And what we were doing in taking out the paver patio with the pergola and putting in a more irregular stone with a wider joint, like a grass joint, so that you won't be having runoff. Now, to Jeff's point, all of this actually slopes back in toward the house. So once you hit the coastal bank, it actually slants and slopes back toward the house. So it really won't have runoff going toward the resource. So it all slopes back at us essentially. So that's essentially how we treated the planting along the edges. We really wanted to buffer that a little bit at the top of coastal bank and enhance the coastal bank. We're going to get down into the coastal bank. Yeah, I'm sure there's some non-natives in there, but it's really holding very well. So I would hate to try to lose the vegetation on the coastal bank itself. And we showed plantings along the sides of the property, as you can see there, Jeff was referring to, as well as all the way down by the side of the house.
Great. I'm good, Frank. Thanks for
Okay.
that detail, Sean.
Oh, you bet. Thanks, Jim.
Okay, Brendan.
Yes, thank you. So I guess my first question is that I see that there's like encroachment in the 50. Is this all new construction that's getting past the 50, or is any of this previously there?
The work that encroaches into the 50-foot buffer is the corner of the wall where it's labeled 48.6 feet to the top of the bank. And then the back left corner of the addition is a pervious patio,
Okay.
which a small portion of that goes into the 50 as well.
Right.
There is existing work within the 50-foot buffer, the existing deck and a wall directly behind the middle of the house extended to the 50-foot buffer, which will be removed and pulled back.
Okay. By pervious, how are we defining pervious? What is it made of?
So we do have a detail on the left side of the page, and we have 12 inches of 3/4 inch gravel with then 1 inch of 3/8 inch washed stone above that, and then 3/4 inch bedding sand, or three quarters to an inch of bedding sand, and then the pavers. So you have quite a bit of just permeable gravel and sand below the pavers. And then for the joints, we call 1/8 inch spacing with Gator nitro sand.
Okay, but the actual pavers are not pervious.
No, they become pervious with the joints and the material below.
Okay.
Pretty tight.
Yeah, it's an eighth of an inch. So, do we know how much flow will go through this system that you have here?
I mean, we have a lot of success with it when it's laid flat like it is here. Water lands on it, and it collects in the joints and it goes in. It works really well. It works great in flat areas. Basically.
Okay, and then for the driveway, you're laying asphalt.
No, for the driveway, we're calling it out to either be pavers or porous asphalt, which I think the application will work well there as well because it is another flat area. The homeowners, they've agreed to do a pervious driveway, but they haven't decided if they want to do pavers or porous asphalt. So we gave them the options and we detailed both of those on the plan.
And Jeff, that could also be a crushed stone if they wanted to do crushed stone or something along those lines. They could also include that in the pervious category, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
Okay, but again, the pavers themselves are not pervious. It's just the joints. And then the porous asphalt, how permeable is porous asphalt? I don't know that I've ever
It's very
heard of it.
permeable. It's very
Yeah,
permeable.
I mean, it's really same answer as the pervious pavers. It really works well. I mean, you can look up videos online of, hose spraying on it and the water does go right through.
Okay.
Same answer. It has to be flat. Otherwise you're gonna have more
All
runoff.
right. And then just to clarify that, are the plantings mitigation or are they just plantings?
Just plantings.
Just plantings. So is there any mitigation for the additional work that's being put into the 50 and all the work in the 100?
We didn't really see this as a project that you would typically require mitigation because the work is primarily between the 50 and the 100-foot buffer in developed areas. So I guess you could call these plantings mitigation, but they were really just, proposed for aesthetics.
For aesthetics. Like, for
Well,
instance,
they're
I
native. They
think,
would, Brendan, they will still be native plants. So whether or not it's semantics of it being a mitigation plan specifically earmarked for a certain amount of square footage, I guess would be the question maybe you're asking, perhaps. Um, it's just a good solid amount of plant material. Um, there is a
okay,
very,
because,
very minor incursion into the 50 with permeable paving.
right, I know it's minor, but everything seems minor in the beginning. Until then, it's a little bit more, a little bit more. No one ever generally doesn't come back from there. But there's, what is that, a 24-inch tree that's being taken down for the addition? Like, so I guess I'd like to make sure that we're accounting for this area that I guess is lawn, and
It is lawn. Yeah, there's a
whatnot.
lot of
But
lawn.
now we'll just be building. So I think that's all I had to say. Thank you.
All right. Do we have anybody in the audience for this one?
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay. Um, so I guess there are a few things. Maybe we can clear them up a little bit. If we start with the Gilson Road side, um, it looks like there's a is that two-story garage being constructed or being removed?
Removed.
So the garage is being removed, and then in place of that is going to be a driveway,
Correct.
and then where there's a retaining wall and an 8-inch tree, that's all coming out. Is that right?
Correct.
And
Yep.
that will be driveway.
So is the addition a garage?
It is, yes.
Okay.
So the garage is going under.
Um, okay, so there's a building being removed that's in the 100, but it's being replaced by a much larger addition on the side. Right now, there's a crush shell driveway, and you're proposing to remove that and install either a pervious paver or pervious asphalt. That's the proposal.
Correct.
And then there's like a little line along the side that goes out to the mailbox, I guess. What is that like
A little retaining wall.
and that's being removed or staying?
That's removed. That's to be removed.
Okay, and then it's being replaced by the stone
The other
retaining
wall.
wall and steps,
That's correct.
right?
Yeah.
So then on the other side of that, there's a brick walkway or some sort of walkway that's going into the house, and then it's being replaced with, is that a set of stairs?
Yeah, it'll be stairs there. There are already some stairs existing there. It's just going to be um, essentially kind of rebuilt, redesigned, and tied into the existing stone wall that sits at the front of the property along Gilson Road.
Got it.
There's an existing retaining wall that ties back to the existing garage that's going to be removed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then moving to the back, there's an outdoor kitchen that's being added,
Mhm.
and that's between the 50 and the 100, a proposed spa. There's a patio that's being removed, but it's being replaced by a larger pervious patio, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Correct.
With a raised stone wall that's what's starting to hit on the 50.
Yeah.
Correct.
And then there's a piece of landscaping and maybe some deck that's in the 50 that's being removed,
Yeah.
Correct.
correct? And then
Correct.
that's what you're going to put in is some plant area, and there's a couple of steps, and part of that stone retaining wall is going to be in the 50.
Yeah, a little bit of that.
Right.
Okay,
Yep.
so you see that, so there's just the commission members, there's a small corner that's out in the 50, that 48.6,
Yeah.
but they're removing part of the deck and the landscapes that encroaches more on the 50, I think is right.
Yeah.
Okay, and then on the with the new addition is staying, it's actually touching the 50, the corner of the addition, but there's a deck that's being removed. And what's the BH?
Bulkhead.
Okay, so the bulkhead's out, and then there's a small pervious patio that's going to a couple of steps that goes out to there, and then there's steps and a walkway, and then steps back down on the left. And as Brendan points out, there's a pretty large tree being removed in that process. Is that pretty well? And then then you have a pergola with a patio, and you're removing that and you're replacing it with a fire pit with large flat stones around it.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And then is there plant material now in those corners where we're showing like the green? Um,
No.
so
There-
that's all
Well,
grass.
there's a little bit in the corners on the left, but in the right, on kind of right around the fire pit, a little bit to the left and the of the fire pit, and all that area on the right of the fire pit is not. There's we get back by those circles up against the top of the coastal bank. Essentially, that's where you see some of the Montauk daisies,
Got it.
and some of the other ones are in there. And so we're creating a little more bed to the face of that to add these plants.
Jen was just good enough to give me an aerial
Oh, great.
of it so I can see that.
Yeah.
And I put an aerial up on screen for anybody else who wants to see what Frank's looking at.
Well,
Okay. Um,
Frank, can I chime in?
yes, please.
Yeah, so after looking at the existing aerial, and I am embarrassed that I overlooked that 24-inch tree, I do think that there's a need for more mitigation in this. I really appreciate the work that's gone into it so far. It's a solid plan, but
That tree.
there is encroachment in the 50, and that 24-inch tree are just rather meaningful. I think an option, I don't want to speak for anybody else, would be it's going to be a crushed stone driveway.
Yes.
That would be a straightforward way to cover this from my perspective.
Okay. Brendan, any more thoughts after we've kind of run through that? Or
No,
kind of-
not really. I think, the tree did kind of jump out at me. So if we could get that crushed stone, that would be nice.
That's usually what somebody says when they've hit one. Penny,
When they hit one, what? What
the
am I?
tree. When Brendan just said the tree
Oh.
just sort of jumped out at him, and I said, "Well, that's
It
usually
jumped
what
out
somebody."
at you. Yeah. No, it's a big tree, and I I think there's a lot of mitigation going in. There's a lot of shrubbery going in, but yeah, the big tree. We need to do something for the big tree to memorialize it.
So Jen's comment was that the driveway would like to see the driveway remain either shell or crushed stone.
I definitely would like to see that they've dealt with the shell all these years, it looks lovely. I think yes, either or.
Okay. And I know there's a lot that's gone into the pervious pavers and the spacing and the sand. I guess the biggest part with those is maintaining them so that they continue to
Yeah,
be
don't,
porous.
don't get
Um,
chunked up.
and I just I,
Okay.
I would trust that Sean has a good handle on what to plant here.
Yeah,
I guess my concern would be that if he weren't necessarily putting in all these himself, that is we don't have a real um we've hit this wall before where
Mhm.
people will show these plants and materials and then they get to the end of the project and it doesn't materialize. Um,
Yeah,
so I'm just wondering if we should be more specific, Sean. And I know that sometimes is difficult trying to find what's available and
sure.
what will work. I know that,
Yeah.
but I'm wondering if we can tighten that up um, in
Provide a
terms,
plant list, a detailed
yeah,
plant list.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
Um, and it's too bad we don't have Eric on tonight to weigh in a little bit um, on what would be beneficial here. But I mean, I think as Penny said, it looks nice to have more plants and that sort of thing as opposed to just all grass. Um,
definitely.
so
I,
that's a
yeah,
big plus.
I could provide that. Would that be something that might be a plan that we could provide, working with Jen on that and provide that as a condition?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes, we can do that.
Okay. The area that's shaded in green, Sean, are those
Yeah.
plant beds?
Those would be plant massing, so those could be, sometimes we like to show those because we think of those as being drifts of native grasses or forbs, as we're calling them tonight, right? So
Yep.
um, we like to show that. Now, again, that could be a woody plant material too. That could be a little shrub or something along those lines. But that's our kind of symbol when we're laying out masses of some of the native plant material.
Okay. Um, has this owner had to do any work on this slope going down to the ocean? I'm kind of looking at the vegetation that's there.
I
Have
don't I don't know that they have, but I think it is was really solid. I don't know if you're looking on an aerial photo. I can't tell. I know that a couple of them appeared to have a couple of properties nearby appeared to have either have done work or have been in the process of doing work when Google had their shots up. Were taking photos, I think. So I'm gonna see.
Yeah, I want to say it was 83 had orders to deal with the invasives and they dealt with the whole cliff.
Yeah, it seemed that would be a pretty daunting. Yeah, that's what it looks right adjacent there. They were doing some work. This felt to me when I was out there, the handful of times that I've been there, it felt really solid, like it's solidly vegetated. And I always get a little anxious trying to get into those if we don't have to, going down the
Mhm.
hill.
It,
If it's already, you know,
is
doing.
there a fence that's remaining?
There's a rail fence that sits there now. As I was recalling, I don't believe we were talking about removing it. I think we were leaving it as is. Um,
You're going to
Says,
want something because
oh,
of the pool.
yeah, well, it's going to be a hot tub essentially.
Okay, okay.
So, you know, the intent was to do a hot tub there. Um, we did propose to do some mesh
yeah,
fence in its place in an area so that somebody's not going over the hill and off the hill.
Mm?
So a mesh and cedar fence to tie into it. If we modified that fence, it would still be for the same purpose to keep somebody from going over the edge.
Got it.
And I would think would be if we kept it in the same place essentially where it's sitting today. I think we did show on here that we are proposing um to do some fence in this area.
Okay. All right. Um,
question about the fence,
Yeah.
go ahead,
Frank?
Penny. Yep.
Oh, just a curiosity thing. A fence out there, should we have it a little bit off the ground for the little critters?
Yeah, probably, right? Just a touch off, 4 inches
Yeah,
or
but
something
we'll
like that.
have to specify it, Jen, please.
Okay.
All right, I just,
Is 4 inches seem to be suitable to you? I know when we're doing
yeah, just
this
so
would
they,
be pool enclosure, but we've done 3 and 31/32 because it still met the state code
Yeah.
for
Right.
that. Technically, when we had pools, in this case, it wouldn't be pool per se.
That at that height there, the rabbit could slip underneath and the
yeah,
fox would not. So
There you go. There we go.
that's what I'm looking for, Frank.
Giving one for the rabbits. Give
I
her
there you
want
go.
them to move around.
win
Okay.
one for the rabbits.
So with the other plantings that was, I mean, I'm looking at this picture and there's a fair number of shrubs and whatnot there. What about the mitigation for that tree? Is there some additional
Are
um
you, are you thinking of getting a tree in someplace or at least
well
some,
there's two that are it looks like two. There's an 8 inch that's being removed for the garage, and then there's the 24 inch tree.
eight
Um,
inches? Yeah, the 8 inch is, I think, I'm gonna double check this. 8 inch is an ornamental tree that's in there now, I believe.
okay.
Um, and then I've got to remember the other larger tree. I'm trying to make sure it's not a Norway maple, but uh,
Well, just I think
Still a
if you're
big
thinking
tree.
if you're going to propose a planting plan, Sean, I think that just so that it's noted that what we'd like to see is plantings that would benefit this yard and the habitat around it. And
yeah,
and and I
mhm,
know, wind shear up there's tough. There's a
it's
whole
tough.
bunch of things that
It is,
but it's also some things that can be done
no doubt.
that would give um replace some habitat
Okay.
and whatnot. Does
In
that
the
make
driveway, Frank. Don't
and the
forget the driveway.
and the driveway? Is everybody in agreement with that consensus?
Brendan's the only one that hasn't spoken on it. Brendan.
What haven't I
Brendan,
said?
Yeah, I think he's dead. I think
Oh,
he did.
whoa, I missed it. I'm getting senile. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
What,
geez.
what did I say? What did I not say?
okay, so we
Yeah,
only got
About
yeah.
the
four.
driveway.
We only have
Crushed
four
stone
members
shell.
tonight. We have four members tonight. One of them senile. That's good.
My God.
I am
All
kidding.
Yeah,
right.
so crushed stone, maintain pavers, planting
Yeah.
plan, fence. Um, those are some of the conditions
Okay.
that we're talking about.
Okay. And
Can I
Okay.
you'll
ask
work
can
them
I ask
out
a
with them.
question? Can I ask a question about the condition where we're describing the driveway?
Yeah.
If they decide that they would still want a surface that's harder, because of kids play or what have you, so it might be that pervious paver or a pervious asphalt or something. We realize it has to be pervious unless they want to come to stormwater or something like that, or come with the stormwater plan. Um, is it possible that, because I don't know for sure, they may come back and say, you guys, we still want some hard surface for the kids to be able to roll trikes on and bikes and that sort of thing, or have some recreation on that driveway. It's very possible they would want that, right? So would some additional plantings be okay in order for there to not to be a condition that they can't go to a hard surface there at some point, permeable or not? I
Jen, I
guess
don't want to.
We would just say if you're going to change the surface, you have to come to us.
Let
We
us
wouldn't
know.
say you can't do it. We would just say this is what the condition is, and then if you want to change it,
I got you.
come to the commission.
I got you, Jim. Okay.
But I think that that would have to be a significant amount of mitigation, uh, just so make sure that that's noted that's the direction we're in. So I think we obviously would like to get this move along here tonight. Um, but I think we need to make sure that we have a condition that we get a really more detailed and significant layout of those plantings, and we could maybe get a couple of members to just review that. And then the driveway piece, I think for tonight, we're looking at the crushed shell and discuss it with your client. And if you come up with something, then as Jen said,
Okay.
whether we have to amend the orders or whatever, or minor modification, we can consider that.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Jen, are you good with all the comments that were made?
I am. I have my notes. Yeah, I don't see anybody's hands raised. If you, for this one, I would say close an issue if you are ready.
Hey, anybody else? Penny or Jen or
I'm
Brenda?
happy.
All good.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to close and issue 87 Gilson Road.
Okay. And we have a second on that?
Second from Jen.
All in favor, Brendan?
Yes.
Frank, yes. Okay.
Thank you.
36 Cliff Road.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good night.
On June 16th, 6 p.m., the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 4 of the Mass General Laws and Section 30700, Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws for notice of intent filed by David Burnham III, for stabilization and repair of a revetment located at 36 Cliff Road, South Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meeting is available on the agenda on the website.
And we have Jeff Hassett.
All right, thank you. Jeff Hassett here again. So this is another NOI filing to stabilize and repair a stone revetment and a bank. The property is 36 Cliff Road South, which is located in Humrock at the northern end where Central Ave splits. So you go off to the right, and this is one of the properties on the right-hand side on the bank that goes down to the ocean. It's abutted by residential homes on either side. And the resource areas on this property, the beach is a barrier beach. And then at the bottom of the bank is land subject to coastal storm flowage, which is a FEMA velocity zone elevation 23. And then you have a coastal bank coming up to the lawn area in the developed portion of the property. So on this plan, we're showing the proposed work in plan view. We're also showing it in photos, which I think tell the story really well. And basically, we're here for the NOI filing for repairs to that bank and the revetment. So the first part of it is beginning at the toe of the slope. There are loose boulders that have come loose and they've shifted in the sand, and we're proposing to restack those at the toe of the slope. Secondly, the bottom half of the bank is boulders that are locked together and with concrete in between. And that portion is actually in really good shape, except there is just some cracks in the concrete that they would like to repair where necessary. And then at the top of the bank, the upper half is vegetated. And the vegetated, there's just areas that need some supplemental plantings. So we're proposing Rosa rugosa anywhere where the plantings are thin or you can see some bare soil. For access to do this work, there is a property to the south that's owned by the town where a machine can come in and then travel to this property. All the work will be well above the mean high water mark, and it will be done not during summer months. And I think it won't have any adverse impact on the bank itself. We're actually proposing it as an improvement. And there was one comment from DMF. The area is a plover habitat. So they recommended a condition that the work not be done between April 1st and August 31st, which is not the intent. The intent is to do this in the fall. So.
Good.
Jen?
I think some of the concerns we usually have are, not storing equipment or material when it's, not being used down on the beach or in that tidal area. We have had a couple comments from abutters about the access area and just making sure it's restored to an appropriate slope for the area when they're done with the work.
Yeah, we had that problem once.
I don't have any DEP comments for this project.
Okay. Um,
Hmm.
Geez, we don't have Richard to start with this evening. Um, Penny?
Yeah, I just I don't know where I've been, but I never knew we put cement between those boulders. Obviously they did because this has it. Is that common, Frank?
People have done it. That was a question that I had, that we really haven't looked to see this like totally sealed off.
Yeah,
That typically the revetments are open. I think a lot of these, Penny, were probably private. And
okay.
people did it to lock them in a little bit more. But um, if this were brand new, I don't think that we would be conditioning that to be all sealed.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that
What
that's
about
something that.
repairing? They want
Well,
to repair
I
some of
think
it.
that's something that we need to think about is, do we want that to continue or should that remain open? Um, that would
I
be
would think you'd want the water to go through the boulders into the.
well, that can lead to some issues too
Yeah,
because
I know. Erosion.
that washes stuff out as well.
Yeah.
But no, I think you're right. It has been done, and people have been trying to find different ways to. You have that really steep slope. How do they just keep it pulled
Yeah.
together? But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I don't. That's not something we would certainly be encouraging. I don't think.
Okay. That's kind of my only question. I mean, I don't want to stop them from repairing. And yeah, please be careful when you take your equipment back out. We had a major issue a few years back that the slope was not put back properly where the entrance was. So they need to really be aware of that because I don't want to go through that again.
Okay, yeah, we can know that for the
Yeah.
owners.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome.
Brendan?
Yeah, I really don't have much to say about this. I think, they're just repairing the wall, right?
Ryan, too.
And
Yeah, I don't think I'm good.
restacking the stones at the bottom.
Yes,
Yeah.
so yeah,
It's all good.
yeah, it's just what, Penny said that everything should be put back or something.
Okay.
That's all.
Uh,
Thank you.
All right. Jen?
Uh, yeah, I think I'm okay.
So, Jeff, the concern, do we have anybody in the audience?
At the moment, I don't see any hands raised. Frank, can I add two things?
Please.
Um, Usually Eric says something about the his preference of Rosa virginiana, I think is the type of plant
yeah.
that he often asks people to use if this is the type of plant they want.
Right.
I didn't know if you wanted to comment on that. And I do think Morse Engineering knows this, but just that, they and I actually think they have confirmed permission from the town as far as using the access way to get equipment and material there.
We do. We have it in an email authorization to use it.
Okay. Good.
All right. So, that's a good point, and I think Jeff, in the future, we're trying to. I don't know the difference between the Rosa rugosa and the Virginiana. I also know that we had a problem getting the Virginiana for a job because it did get spec'd, and we had a third alternate that I can't remember, but apparently Rosa rugosa is not the. I mean, certainly a rugged plant and it works well, but there was a couple of others that Eric had suggested as alternatives to the rugosa. It still basically looks like the same thing to me, but
Okay. I'm not aware of the difference, but as long as they're available, then I
maybe
don't.
we can get that for you, a little bit of that information. They have to be, a lot of them have to be sourced and ordered. So it's our preference to see something that's a little more. Maybe we can get that name too, Jen.
Yep.
Um, so we can give that. So my concerns are with Penny in really sealing this whole thing off. Like this is supposed to be a revetment, not on a solid piece, and I'm a little concerned about pouring concrete in between these rocks. I understand why people are trying to do it, but the whole idea of having this as stone, so as the water runs up and it's more of a rugged surface that um, it dissipates some of that action. And when you make that just a hard surface, although it's rocks, it becomes more of a smooth surface, Jeff. Um,
Yeah, I understand. I mean, I think the key here is that it's a repair. The
yeah,
feature that's been here for a long time, and it's already in that state.
yeah. I just
And
don't
I
know
think
if
it's
it needs to
important.
ha do we need to add more to it though to make it can it be chinked and filled without without using concrete?
I'm not sure. I mean, I'd have to go back to the homeowners on that. It's really just, it's not adding any concrete where it's currently not concrete already. It's just repairing the cracks. I don't
Okay.
think you're getting any significant infiltration by not repairing those cracks. I think the only thing that'll happen is it's more likely to break apart with the freeze and thaw and the water getting between there. And I think you see what happens at the bottom of the slope where it wasn't concreted together. The boulders were all over the beach. So
Well, I
I
mean,
know
unfortunately, that's happening in lots of places. You know, every storm we get some unraveling of these stones, and some of that's a function of how big the stones are and then how well they're placed. But, Mother Nature is going to want to shift some of this around. This second concern of mine really is digging up and trying to relocate a lot of these stones. These stones have started to settle in here, and I guess I'd be more inclined to think that they had to add more stones as opposed to
moving them.
moving them. I mean, there's some that maybe could be adjusted to push them back into place, but like that picture on the right, it's showing a fairly large stone, and the note is that you want to relocate those. So that means you're gonna have to dig those out of the sand and then move them back up, which means to me that they're only going to slide back down. And I'd be more inclined to say if they want to fix this wall, they really probably need to get some additional stones um,
Yeah.
and fill in some of those areas.
Yeah, we are noting additional boulders to be provided if required. Which, yeah, I think it
Do you,
would go a long way to get a few more larger boulders in there with the smaller ones that have moved.
I think it would be good. I think this is a good idea. I just don't think that we're getting enough information to say how this is going to go. I mean, usually these revetments have some specs like the tonnage, the size of the boulders, a little bit more detail in how those get put together. And this, um, and usually when we're seeing those, they're submitted by the town. They're like a FEMA project or something, so they're spec'd out pretty heavy. Um,
Okay.
this is a homeowner obviously trying to not get into huge costs on that, which I understand, but I don't want somebody to go in there and start to unravel this thing and make it worse. Um, and I'm just wondering how we can get a little bit of um, assurance that that's not going to be the case.
Okay. Yeah, we can get you some more information on that, certainly.
Does that make sense, Jen? J-
Yes. What kind of what you want the slope to look like when you're done with everything? So maybe more material coming in and
And
not digging something out of the beach.
I think, yeah, I think I'd like to know, like to know roughly how many yards of concrete you're proposing to use, Jeff, and then how much stone you're planning on adding to this so that we can have some handle on that, and then maybe a little more. I know it's hard to draw a detail to see that, but that maybe a little bit more of the process and whatnot in terms of how they're going to put that together. Um,
Okay.
I mean, some of them remove some of this stuff and then they put some smaller stone. I'm not an engineer on that part. I mean, you guys are the ones that do that. But I think if you look at some of the detail that are in some of those revetment plans that the town has, there's some maybe some verbiage and some things that could go in that could help you with that.
Okay.
All
Yeah, I
right.
think I hear what you're looking for. We can certainly provide that information.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna continue this?
Doesn't sound like this is going to happen until the fall. I'd like to get a little bit more
Yeah.
info. Jen
Y-
Smith,
Yeah, we can continue to July 21st, or I mean, we really just kind of filled that one up, or August 4th.
Jeff.
If you could keep it on the 21st, I think it should be pretty brief.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds good. Take a motion.
I make a motion, we continue 36 Cliff Road South to July 21st.
That's by Penny. Do I have a second?
Second from Jen.
All in favor, Brendan
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Awesome. Thank you,
All
Jeff.
right. Thanks, everyone.
And we already continued 85.
Yeah. We're going.
Now we are
West-
on to 19 Musquashkett Ave. On June 16th at 6 p.m., the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Mass General Laws, and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws. Notice of intent filed by William Baller for an installation of a pool located at 19 Musquashkett Ave, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meetings available on the agenda posted on the website.
Good evening, members of the commission. Brad Holmes from ECR on behalf of the applicant William Blower for 19 Musquashkett Ave. Along with me this evening is Matt Pillis, landscape architect, that's prepared the design plans. So with the sheet that you have open now, we have a single family residence at 19 Musquashkett Avenue. The property is to the west of Musquashkett Pond. The Musquashkett roadway is in between the pond and the roadways in between the pond and the site. So what we're proposing is landscape improvements and proposed plunge pool and patio and whatnot in the backyard of the property. So we're outside the buffer zone, but we're fully within land subject to coastal storm flowage. So we are within the commission's jurisdiction. What we're proposing to do is to construct a plunge pool with an associated patio, retaining walls, walkways, and regrading of the lawn with landscape improvements to improve the drainage on the property and also to add more plantings and drainage. We have had some opportunity to coordinate with Jen, and Matt Pillis has updated the plan so that we have a pervious patio so that we're under 25% so we don't have a trigger for stormwater. As you can see here, this is the proposed project. As I mentioned before, it's within the backyard of the property. It occurs all within existing lawn and landscape area. The small pool is proposed, patio and walkways, and you can see the grading design. And I'm going to turn it. Oh, one last thing. This is all within, as I mentioned, land subject to coastal storm flowage. We're outside the buffer, so that I can not screw up the design. I'm going to turn it over to Matt Pillis, the landscape architect. But it's basically just a brief overview of the project, and I think you can move hopefully somewhat quickly on this project. So with that, I'll turn it over to Matt.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, can you hear me?
Got you.
Awesome, great. Like I said, like Brad said, my name is Matt Pillis. I'm a registered landscape architect involved in the project. Just kind of reiterating Brad's comments. The landscape improvements include two stone patios, as you can see, and a small 7 by 13-foot plunge pool. Access to these spaces is provided by an adjacent stone step or walkway with lawn in between the joints. If you kind of go back to the grading plan really quick, minor regrading is required to allow for a level patio and plunge pool area. This disturbance really only impacts a small portion of the rear yard and the existing perimeter lawn. and pretty heavily plant beds around the whole perimeter of the property are to remain in place. There was currently some existing puddling in the yard, so you can see on the grading plan in the bottom left corner, regrading and an additional drain and dry well are planned to be installed to properly capture and infiltrate water or stormwater on the site, ultimately improving drainage on the property. Thank you, and feel free to reach out with any questions.
Thank you. Brendan? Oh, Jen. Sorry. Jen Smith.
No DEP comments. It's land subject to coastal storm flowage. We recently heard this site for an RDA for some of the deck work, so that the deck part has been permitted. So we tried to coordinate everything so that this was the pool and patios, and some of the grading that'll go with it. Good to know about the dry well, and I would say, probably a limit of work should be added to this, but we can condition that.
Yep.
And I do think on one of these pages we have the details for the pervious pavers, and those would need to be maintained as well.
We do not have details.
Oh, I thought I had it on
Sorry,
something.
the pavers are not they're impervious.
They're impervious. Okay.
But I can provide a detail for the steppers with the lawn joints. So
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
yep.
How about Jen Foley on this one?
Yeah. Um, it almost feels like a trick, like I'm looking for the thing that would be weird. I don't think I have anything.
Okay. Penny?
No, it looks, pretty straightforward to me. It's across the street from the pond, so that's good.
Right. Okay.
Brendan.
Brendan?
I think I'll be good.
Do we have anybody in the audience on this one? Okay. No.
How about you, Mr. Frank?
No, I mean, given the location and the insignificant impact, we got Peg's iPad.
Yes, I'm gonna unmute Peg.
Hi, my name is Kara Hansen. I'm Peg Doran's daughter, and I'm speaking on her behalf. Our concern is that where the
And what's your address, please?
540 Hatherley Road.
Okay.
When the townhouses went in to the property next to this, we were told that there wouldn't be any water because there is a small brook back there, and we actually ended up with a really large amount of water, and they had to come back and do another almost retaining structure, and there still is water from that project. So it's kind of a big concern of ours that this is going to happen again, and we're going to end up with even more water.
Yeah, and I'm happy to kind of respond to that. So any of our as part of this exercise, we're actually regrading a little bit of the site to keep all of the water on site and improve it even more. We have some low points where water's ponding on the owner's property, and we're creating 2 low points on the site where any storm water that goes to the back of the rear yard will go to these low points, which have drains, and the water will be infiltrated on site. So,
Okay.
Right, because they did do a drain for that last project too. So I just I guess we'll see how it goes along.
So in terms of the town has a stormwater bylaw, but it has to have certain triggers in order for that to be put into effect. And I don't believe that the area that they're doing here is large enough to do that. Jen, you took a look at that, correct?
Correct. They didn't trigger the stormwater permit with the area they're disturbing, and what they're introducing. They did provide their numbers on one of the pages with the additional impervious.
Okay. I think he answered that question, but it's a little hard to see on this plan. But the way this is graded, the water is actually being graded into the property, am I right, as opposed to being graded off property?
Yeah, we're kind of turning some of the stormwater that was right now is going off, I guess, kind of planned south a little bit to go to a low point in the rear side part of the yard into a new drain.
Okay. Okay,
I,
thank
I
you.
think that was page 7 if we want to.
It's a pretty elaborate set of plans.
Yeah. Mm. Oh, the other one was too.
There it is. Oh,
Go-
nope. Keep going.
No,
There
right
it
here.
is.
No, right there. Stay with that one. So you can see the shots, the grade shots, and then where this is graded to.
Okay. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Um, let's see. We've heard from everybody, right?
Yep, except you, unless you.
No, I think given the location and the information on the plan, and it's more of a flood issue, but they've addressed those pieces. So I
Yeah.
really don't see anything more that can be added to that.
Okay.
Other than is there a need for erosion control here? I'm just trying to figure out where that could possibly impact.
Yes, we will definitely have erosion control prior to the start of work.
Okay. Is that noted on the plan?
I think it's on, if you go back to the first page and confirm.
I
We
think there's
would we would definitely put it in our conditions to have the limit of work be erosion control.
Of course.
Okay. All
and
right.
we noted that in the narrative that prior to the start of work, erosion controls would be included.
Okay. All right.
All
Take
right.
a motion.
I make a motion to close an issue, Jen.
Yes, please.
Okay. 19 Musquashkett Ave.
Okay, that's from Penny.
Yeah.
A second.
Second from Jen.
All in favor, Brendan
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Frank, if it's possible, can we hear 600 Glades Road next? I have a time constraint. It's the one about the snail research.
Sure.
I know
Yeah.
that's out of order. We still need to hear 133 Maple Street.
Yep. Just looking to open that one. Um, So on June 16th, 6 p.m., the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws for request of a determination of applicability filed by Christopher Wells for zoological research located at 600 Glades Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meeting is available on the agenda posted on the website. And who do we have for that?
That would be me, Chris Wells.
There he is. Yep.
Chris? Good evening.
Good evening. How are you guys today?
We're all well. And I just I would really want to know about this, Chris, but I think if you heard from the start of the meeting, we're going to lose one of our members in about 20 minutes.
Okay.
And we have one other hearing. So
I will be very brief then.
okay, thank you.
All right. To get to the meat of the potatoes, I'm a researcher at Bowdoin College, interested in looking at snail populations across the Gulf of Maine, in order to understand something about these introduced species. In order to do that, I'm installing small fenced areas across these places and seeking permits from all sorts of locations. At this point, I've garnered permits from all sort of the locations from Canada all the way down to Massachusetts. The one that you guys are going to care about is DMF. Um, and these fenced areas are 28 inches by 28 inches by 6 inches high. There'll be 5 at each location. There's actually 2 locations. There's one on the south side of that harbor, and then there's one on the northwest side of that harbor, or that embayment right there. And the only sort of adjustment to the wetlands that there would be, other than the presence of these fenced areas, would be that they need to be anchored to the granite. So there would be 1.5 inch, quarter-inch holes drilled in the granite in order to attach it with lag bolts. I have no intention of removing vegetation, altering sediment, using chemicals, changing hydrology or topography in any meaningful way at all. And all of the stuff that I'm doing is minor, temporary, and easily removable, and also durable in the sense of if there's a winter storm or something like that, it should be able to, it's built to withstand the winter storms of the Gulf of Maine.
Okay. Jen?
I understand you've also filed with Cohasset for a similar project in a couple locations there. And I think anybody else from the town who would need to know about it, we can let them know. I have let a couple other boards know that this was filed, and I don't have any comments from anyone.
Okay.
Penny?
I think it's a wonderful idea. Can I go out and see the snails, sir?
You'd have to seek permission from the local landowners, but if the Glades Association's okay with it, I'd love for you to be there.
Okay, thank you. I'm all set, Frank.
Okay. Brendan?
I believe I'm all set.
Jen?
Yeah, all good. Are you, I guess one question would be, we've had other kind of fun research things come through the office. What is the timeline for your research? Like, can you share some of your findings back? Is this like a year or a 5-year plan, or how long?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be more than willing to give updates as you guys are interested, or if
Yeah,
anything interesting happens. I'll be going out there 5 times a year to do this. I should hopefully, so I've got a Cohasset Conservation Commission meeting next week that I'll be attending. Hopefully, if everything goes according to plan, then I should be installing these fenced areas by the end of this month. Um, and then visiting them once at the end of summer and then once every season after that. So hopefully by the end of summer or fall, I should have some information, and would love to let anyone know who has a curiosity about this, what we're
yeah,
finding here. And certainly everything here would be published in, peer-reviewed journals as well, but the whatever's most accessible to the folks of Scituate, since I'm using their
yeah.
resources.
It's nice for our meetings to not always be about septic systems and decks, and so to have a little bit of science in there.
Yeah, or
Um,
removal of 24-inch trees.
yeah, there you go. Chris has been paying attention.
Mm.
Yeah.
Let's give him what he wants.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the audience?
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay.
So are we just real quick, so we have to move on. Are we concerned? Are these snails creating an issue that you're aware of, or are they just
They've
trying to
been, they've,
figure? Go
these are
ahead.
the periwinkles that I mean, if you grew up on the coast, you've known and loved that you probably put in buckets, but they're actually from Europe. They came over with Europeans a couple hundred years ago, and everything that lives in the intertidal is at the behest of them. They eat pretty much everything that's not chemically or structurally defended, and so we're very curious as to what the Gulf of Maine might have looked like prior to the invasion of this snail. I have no intention of removing it, and I don't know if there's a world where people could do that anymore. But I am curious as to what the system used to look like before, and how sort of looking at it from Massachusetts all the way up into Canada, how that
So
might
with
differ across this large gradient.
so these 3x3 areas, are they going to be considered like an exclosure? Or are you trying to keep the snails out of these areas?
A little bit of both, enclosure and exclosure. There'll be ones where snails are excluded. There'll be ones where snails are elevated in population. And we'll be seeing how that changes the ecosystem. I did send a picture very late to Jen, as in like 7:10, that I don't know if she's got control or if you guys can share it, but I can show you what a picture looks like as well if you're curious.
Josh, I saved it in the project folder. It's a Word document.
But that's sort of the first prototype we just made like 3 days ago. So
Okay.
still held together by some clamps.
Gotcha.
Oh. Huh.
And then these will be staked in or
They'll be lag bolted in, yes.
well,
We'll see what happens.
I'm very curious.
Yeah.
um, be
Interesting.
curious how these work with regard to the green crab. This seems to be destroying the marshes.
Yeah, unfortunately, these are designed so that green crabs can get in and out. The only thing that hopefully will be getting in and out of this won't be getting in and out of this is snails. That's what that copper barrier is for.
Okay.
Huh. So the copper, because it retards them from wanting to climb on that?
Yep. They have no interest in it. Exposure to copper,
Right.
touching copper in particular is toxic to these snails. So it won't be toxic in and around the fenced area, but if they're touching it, it's not great for them. So they will, in pilot studies in the lab, they don't cross the barrier, or very few cross the barrier over time. So my monthly visits or even seasonal visits should be enough to reduce the population.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for listening and entertaining this.
And we'd like to, as Jen Foley pointed out, any sort of
Info.
info that you get, we would really enjoy that, and maybe we could find a time to kind of tag on a little bit. We won't try to slow you down, but
I mean, if someone wants to run the hammer drill, I'd love for other people to be there. And there's lots of heavy things to carry.
Don't tempt me with a good time.
Do we have somebody looking to add into the meeting? Okay.
They're in.
Okay. All right. So can I get a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion for -3, Jen, for 600 Glades Road.
That's Penny.
Well,
Okay.
let's do -2, please.
-2, yeah.
Yeah, because
Okay,
we're
a
in the
-2.
resource area.
Okie dokie. I make a motion for a -2 for 600 Glades Road.
That's Penny. Do you have a second?
Second from Jen.
All in favor, Brendan?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Oh, wish you well with the project. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll keep you guys in the loop.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
Maple.
Now, what did I
15
do with that?
minutes.
I kind of shuffled stuff around here. Do we already open that one?
No, we need to open it.
Ooh.
Did I do, Josh?
I don't know what you do, Frank. You lose it.
I got it. On June 16th, 2025, at 6 p.m., the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws for notice of intent of stormwater application by Mark Chalmers for construction of addition located at 133 Maple Street, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meetings available on the agenda. And who do we have on for this one? This is Mackenzie?
Yeah, so I unmuting Mark. Anybody else who would like to be unmuted, if you can please raise your hand. I have an iPhone and a phone number. How about Jennifer Smith?
That's you.
Hi,
Well,
thank you.
There's
more than
another
one.
Jennifer Smith.
Uh,
Good evening. Who
good
do we have?
evening. So I'm Jen Smith. I'm the GC for the project, but we also have Brad Holmes here, which I think he's speaking for the stormwater drain as the engineer had to jump. He had a family emergency. He may confirm. Yep, I guess he is. Thank you, Brad.
Sure. Good evening, members of the commission. Brad Holmes with ECR on to help with this project.
Good evening.
The engineer Austin from McKenzie Engineering wasn't able to attend. He had an emergency, so I was planning on helping with this project to explain the project and the resource areas. So I'll do that. And as far as engineering and stormwater, we'll have to continue if that's an issue. But the site is to the north of a wetland and intermittent stream, which is off-site. So with that wetland system and intermittent stream as a 100-foot buffer zone, the stream is mapped on the USGS map as an intermittent stream, and it has a watershed area less than a half square mile. So it's confirmed as an intermittent stream. So the proposed project is within the buffer zone. I believe it meets the commission setbacks. I can't see the plan too well on this image. Jen, if you could pull it up, I believe we're certainly outside the 50-foot setback to the wetland. We're partially within the 100-foot buffer zone. The addition is proposed at the back of the house within an existing lawn and landscaped area. Thank you. That's the 50-foot buffer to the BVW. They do have an 100-foot setback to the intermittent stream. And that's the 100-foot buffer zone in blue, correct. They did put reference to the setback to the intermittent stream. There is no riverfront on the site, but I think that has to pertain to tributary or to a water supply or something beyond that. So with that, I know there's the proposed porch at the front of the house. And they do have some leaching dry wells for roof infiltration. And with that, I'll bring it back to the commission. And Jen Smith. Thank Jen Smith, double squared.
Stormwater addition deck to BVW.
Frank, do you want Scituate
yeah,
Jen Smith to say a couple comments?
yes, please.
Sure. So
Sorry.
this project did trigger stormwater, so they have filed for that permit. It is being reviewed. We just received those comments this weekend, so they haven't had a chance to respond to those. The project also needs to file with zoning, which they have done because it is in the Water Resource Protection District and specifically in the Zone A. So this is work proposed within 150 feet of a tributary to our water supply. So that has some special requirements to it as well, trying to kind of layer everything together. But there were no DEP comments, and we do have the information that we need as far as the resource areas are concerned. And like I said, we just got the comments about the stormwater, so we're waiting on a response to those comments.
Okay.
Thank you,
We're
Jen.
not going very far here.
Let's go through real quickly because we'll have to
Yeah.
vote something before Jen Foley's on. So Penny,
Yeah, I really don't have any comments until that stuff comes back. I don't understand the deck and the buffer to the BVW. buffer zone, buffer zone. Let's what I'd like to wait for the comments to come back on the stormwater. Thank you.
Okay. Jen Foley.
Same. I'd like to hear about the stormwater.
Okay. Brendan.
I guess I'd like to hear about the stormwater as well. But also, I guess we're encroaching more into the 100, so um, I don't see any like additional mitigation or anything like that. So, or if that's
Something to
even
think about.
something to think about. Yes,
Yeah.
that's all.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the audience for this one?
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is all out of the 50, Brad, right?
Correct.
And so the work is in the 100. Is there any mitigation proposed at all to be in that 100?
Beyond the roof drainage, I don't believe so. I can, if it's something that I can coordinate with the applicant and engineer on it, I think we could look at that.
It would be helpful, I think, if they could take a peek. Is there any large vegetation being disturbed or removed or anything? I mean, the septic's already there, right?
Right. I believe, as I remember the property, the back of the house is there isn't any large trees where the proposed addition is, but I can get some clarification on that.
That
That's
would be
Okay.
good.
There is none. There's no trees.
Okay.
Maybe we'll
Um,
plant some.
so I guess that would be the only piece. We are going to have to continue it with the to get that stormwater piece, but hopefully we can do that fairly quickly.
Next.
You probably don't even know this, but I think this is this for any Litchfield's old house?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's down the bottom of the hill now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's a new house going up to the left of it.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Big, big.
All right.
Okay, so when do we continue this to, Jen?
I July 21st is what I've been continuing things to.
So you still have room though? I mean, let's not overdo.
Um, I mean, no, but
So I mean, if we're only if our concern is the stormwater, we've got a consultant reviewing that, right?
Yeah.
right.
And then they'll start.
So if we get that information and maybe they come up with a little bit of mitigation, this doesn't seem like a difficult thing um to move along.
Yeah, I just don't know how many are already on that agenda, Frank. That's all. I just
It's tough because just like tonight, we had a lot
Yeah.
and then a lot changed.
I'd
So,
I'd put one more in there.
okay.
Okay. Okay, so I'll make a
And
motion.
we'll just complain about it at the next that meeting.
Okay, Frank, I'll complain to you. I make a motion, we continue 133 Maple Street to July 21st.
Okay.
Okay,
A second,
Second from Jen.
Jen, all in
thank you.
favor? Brendan
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Great. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Too.
Yeah.
We do have 2 minutes to vote as well, if we can.
Let's do
Yeah.
that.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes from 5:19 and 6:2 as written.
That's from Penny. Do I have a second?
Second from Jen.
All in
Oh.
favor? Brendan
Yes.
and Frank, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
All
Wow.
right.
Well, it looks like we did it. Everybody, anything else you want to quickly bring up?
I don't have my notes, so I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'm okay with
Okay,
calling it
I'll
a
make
night.
a motion to adjourn.
This is motion from Penny, a second.
Second from Jen.
Thank you, Jen. Brendan,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Because if you left, Jen, and we didn't do that, we'd have to sit here all night until somebody came back in the morning.
Yeah, if they ever came back.
July 21st. No, the 30th.
Yeah.
Uh,
All right. Well, thank you all for moving that along and your Great
It was
thoughts, and
interesting,
we will
interesting.
can't wait to see us again.
I
Have a
know.
good evening, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night,
Bye.
everyone.
Night.